come together and think of a strategy. I mean, as an intellectual space, we debate these ideas. This is what has made this nation actually move forward as one of the leaders in the world, for better or for worse. And so this idea that immigrants take away from the robust intellectual space is patently false, first of all, but it's creating a level of fear where, what is the point of a university if we have homogeneity of thought and silence?
We're going to have to.
It makes no sense.
We're going to have to leave it there. But of course, we'll continue to follow this issue. 8 more international students have had their visas revoked. 150 have been revoked in the last few weeks. Fordham professor Christina Greer will link to your New York Times op-ed, Black Americans Are Not Surprised. That does it for our show. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Thank you so much for joining us.
The viewpoints expressed in this program are the opinions of the people expressing them and are not necessarily those of Fresh Air Incorporated, its staff, or its board of directors.
Hi, this is Al McFarlane, host of The Conversation with Al McFarlane. You're listening to 98.3 FM, KFAI, Minneapolis. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along. What a wonderful station, KFAI. What great information, what great engagement. I am thankful, grateful for the opportunity to be on the roster at KFAI, a powerful audience here in Minnesota and around the world at kfai.com. I'm also so happy to be a player, a participant in the media ecosphere, I guess, or the media landscape of our community and of our country. Proud to have been the steward and leader of Insight News. We're pushing 50 years of publishing here in Twin Cities and online for probably 20, 25 years. So we're reaching people locally and around the world as well with insightnews.com. We thank you for connecting with us wherever you are. This program, as well as being broadcast on KFAI, is being shared through the websites of the Black Press of America, Black Press USA. We're on the YouTube channel for Black Press USA. We're on the YouTube channel for Insight News. We're also streaming on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Now, however you are connecting with us, we value the connection. We value the opportunity to engage with you, and we invite you to participate in this conversation. As always, we promise robust conversations, and I think today will be no exception. We've got several guests who will be hanging out with us and talking about what's on their minds and what their work is about. You'll enjoy these conversations. And we want you to participate in a couple of ways. One, we're trying to grow our numbers by inviting people to share and like the program, no matter what platform they're on. But we also invite you to go to the Insight News YouTube page and become a subscriber. We've crossed the 1,500 subscriber mark. We'd like to get to 2,000 and beyond that. And if you're listening on KFAI or on any of the channels, get a chance to go over to Insight YouTube channel and become a subscriber. So with that, also, if you want to get involved in this conversation and you are online on any of the channels, just go to the comment section and I think they'll show up. We'll try to respond to your questions, and we'd love to shout you out no matter where you are as well. Well, I want to begin by inviting my co-host on today. My co-host is one of our editors here at Insight, Coach Leah Denley. Coach Leah, my friend, good to see you again. It's been a minute. How are you doing? And there she is. Hey, Coach.
Hey, it's going really well. How are you?
I'm doing well. So good to see you again. It's been a minute since you've been
I
on, but
know.
it's always wonderful to be with you. What's going on in your world? What are the top priorities for you that you want to make sure you get people tuned into?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I want to tell everybody that we did a wellness, wealth, and winning conference alongside the Women's Final Four through our Tall Girls United initiative down in Tampa. Just got back from that. And boy, what an amazing Final Four it was this year, wasn't it? Got to see our homegirl, Paige Beckers, finally get her national championship with UConn. And so
Mm,
we're so proud of her and her efforts. And she's such a humble and beautiful young lady. We'll be doing a feature article on her that you'll see on our sports page. And we don't want to leave out Tessa Johnson, who played for South Carolina, who is also a star from Minneapolis. And so that was a very, very nice matchup. And um, I could say that I was rooting kind of for both since we had a homegirl playing for each team. But I will
mhm,
say that it was nice to
mhm.
see Paige Beckers get that. And she'll be the #1 draft pick in the WNBA. And it looks like the Dallas Stars will pick her up. And then many of you know that I go back and forth from Minneapolis to to Texas, Houston. And so to see the Cougs lose a nail biter last night in the men's national championship, was extraordinary. I was on a plane actually watching live. So technology is really, really cool. But I want to pivot. I want to do a hard pivot
Mhm.
because I was very, very fortunate to be invited as media to an event in Washington, D.C. through the Emmett Till Foundation. And so today we have some guests with us to talk about that event and do a recap and just get some more insight into that. And the one thing that I took away from that was Twin Cities is a pretty amazing place. I mean, I'm sure everybody feels that way about their hometown, but when I tell you that we show up for each other no matter where we are, literally on this planet, it was so good to see my sister Deborah Watts and her daughter Terry and the amazing work that they're doing through the foundation and now be connected with all these other amazing humans through that initiative. So, yeah.
Well, let's bring in our special guest. Deborah and I go back a long, long way. It's always good to see her, and of course, the work that she has done, just in a way that is fierce, principled, important, and necessary, and that is consequential. And also, Jaribu Hill is here. Let me have you introduce them both, and then we'll go from there.
Well, okay, so of course we know Deborah Watts. Deborah Watts is the co-founder of the Emmett Till Foundation, and I always tell people that um, Deborah's known me a long time, a long, long time. And I was fortunate to be able to hear about this dream of hers before this was even a thing. And so to see things being able to actually be what the dream was is incredible. And so, Deborah, it's so good to see you today. And like I said, we both got the email. I understood the assignment. So we got our red and black rock in here. And but while I was in DC, I had a chance to do a one-on-one sit down with this amazing woman, Jerubu Hill, and wanted her. I just knew, Al, that you guys had to hear from her personally. And so I was so glad that her schedule availed for her to be here with us today as well. And so I really don't want to take your thunder, Deborah. So if you can introduce Ms. Hill for me, that would be awesome.
Well, first of all, thank you, Al. Good seeing you and Coach Leah, and also our incredible awardee, 2025 awardee, Jaribu Hill. It's great to be here. It's an honor. It's been a while, but we've been pretty busy for the past 20 years. And
Mhm.
the organization is the Emmett Till Legacy Foundation. The Emmett Till Foundation was actually founded by Emmett Till's mother. And so I don't want to take that credit, but she also, I would say, painted this picture of how We need to show up for each other. We need to honor each other. And we need to do the work. We need to do the work of making sure that our young people have the kind of skills and the backing that they need to move forward in life. So beyond the tragedy, to show up with power and presence and with passion, and to give them that kind of foundation. And so I'm just honored to be here. But I do want to say, since you've given me this opportunity and this honor, and this person doesn't need, I mean, she is a voice, she is a presence, she is a spirit, she represents power to me, and represents, I'd say, a passion around life, liberty, around freedom, around justice in particular. And this is Jaribu Hill, who is our 2025 Women of Courage awardee. You know, we've been doing this. This is probably our 8th Women of Courage Awards, but we did it a little bit different. We did it at the nation's capital, and we did it at the Press Club, National Press Club, because it was important. That's how Mamie started. That's how Mamie, when she opened the casket, she wanted the world to see what happened to her son. And she used the press. She used people in the legal field. She also used her voice. And so that voice that we have been so privileged and honored to have stand beside us on our fight for justice is Jaribu Hill. So without any further introduction, I think that she can speak for herself. And that's why we are partners in this area to move forward truth, justice, and accountability. And I just am honored to say that she has been our attorney, taking over from Simeon Wright, who was actually in the bed with Emmett. She had the task and had taken on the honor and the privilege and the commitment to make sure that he received justice. He passed on, is now an ancestor, and she joined us on our justice journey. So without further delay and introduction, Jaribu Hill.
Sister Jaribu
Welcome,
Hill,
Jaribu.
so good to see you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's so good I really didn't want to let go, Deborah. Press conference, press club. I wanted that thing to go on, and, maybe a couple more days. So now I have a chance to do an extension of praise and celebration of you and Tia and Terry in particular. And I know the whole team supported you. And that is why I really love what you're doing. I love how people show up for you. I count myself as one of those folks who will always be in your corner, always be there. And I also don't count in any way anything that you and I and Keith and others have embarked on. I don't count it as a defeat. I count it as a victory. You shined a light on what happened to Emmett, but also you've continued to shine a light on modern day lynchings and race deaths. And because of that, many, many family members are able to tell their stories. I remember at the program, at the celebration of Mamie last week, Shelton Chappelle came through and played the saxophone and paid tribute to his mother, Johnny Mae Chappelle. So I just want to shout out to you in person and say to you how honored I am to be in the circle that I was privileged to represent Simeon. That was one of my greatest moments as a human rights attorney, as a wannabe freedom fighter, studying under some of the best. I count myself as lucky, and I'm very humble by everything that's happening. The award that you bestowed on myself and the 17 other sisters, there are no words that I can say. And I'm old enough now to have received many, many plaques. And I also say some of those plaques are kind of fake, but this is the real deal. And you and Terry and Tia in particular, to see how your two daughters move and groove with you, and you're just a single force. And so I'm honored to be a part. And then I didn't get the memo, or it was there couched in something else about the red and black. But as you see, I ran and got a red and black shawl that was given to me at Christmas time by one of my clients. So I said, wait a minute, it's hanging over my closet door. Let me go grab it. So I put on the red and black to be a part of it, be in solidarity always, because when you say wear black and white, I try to show up in my black and white. And I also wanted to make sure I was in solidarity with you sisters today. So the important work that you're doing, please know
Deborah,
that
you
we
got to
are
tell me what the red and black is. Now I'm outside the loop here.
Yeah.
Well, Coach Leah mentioned it, and I sometimes things just happen. I don't think I got that memo, but guess what? It's showing up, and it represents some solidarity. And I believe in that. And in today's world, we need whatever we can grab, whatever we need to show solidarity, whether it's silent, whether it's out loud. And if black and white is black and red is it, then I fell right into it from a spiritual perspective.
Well, let's tell our radio audience, so they're looking at this through their mind's eye. And so you who are listening on KFAI, just imagine these three queens showing up in beautiful red and black, and it's red and black that reflects the lifeblood and the power of the people. And we thank you for doing that. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. Thank you for being with us. We continue. My guest, my co-host today, Coach Leah Jean Denley, and she has special guests, attorney Deribu Hill and Deborah Watts. They both are with the Emmett Till Legacy Foundation, and we're talking about that. I want to have one more guest. I want to bring him in now just to be part of this community conversation, and that is later in the program, I'll be interviewing and spending more time with a powerful young man with the Minnesota Build Wealth Minnesota organization. His name is Demitri McGee. But Demitri, I don't want to leave you out of this conversation that we're going to have. So I think we're all working on building community the same way. And we'll talk about Build Wealth and your work as a youth program director momentarily. But, Deborah and Deribu and Coach Leah, I think it's never inappropriate to take us back to the source of the story. And there are some people listening here on KFAI and maybe on the social media platforms, when you say Emmett Till, it's blank. Time has gone by. I think our obligation and our duty is to keep the memory of the legacy up front in all of our minds. So I'm going to ask you as family, Deborah Watts, when I say Emmett Till, what are we talking about? Before I do that, I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. I was telling Deribu Hill, she's also founder of the Mississippi Workers Center in the Delta of Mississippi. My mother's family is from Sunflower, Mississippi. So I've got this deep connection to Mississippi. We owned a grocery store in Kansas City. And I remember we sold Jet magazines. And as a kid, I worked behind the counter in the grocery store. And I remember the day they brought in the Jet magazine with the cover with Emmett Till's body in the open casket. And it's like I'm looking at it right now or yesterday. And so that has created an indelible impression in my mind and on my spirit about what this country could do and did do to Black people, the injustice and the horror, the terror. And so I think we have to keep talking about it. They'll tell us, oh, get over it, or it was just one thing that happened. But sorry, friends here on KFAI, my white friends, it wasn't just one thing. It was the way it was, and we fought and we resisted, and that's why we're talking about it today. The resistance is not over. We're still talking about it. We're talking about it when we talk about George Floyd. We're talking about it when we talk about the effort to roll back the voting rights of our people, the enfranchisement. So I started here, Deborah, saying, I remember the picture of Emmett Till in his casket. I'm going to have you take it. What was that about? Tell the story from your family. Take the time you need. Who was Emmett Till?
I'll tell you this, whenever I have this opportunity, it is part of a commitment that our family has made with each other. I want to start out and say that my great-grandfather and Emmett Till's great-grandfather were brothers. So that's how we are related. And that's an important part to start with, because just even as an extension of my family, what Emmett's mother, Mamie Toe Mobley, did actually impacted both in the United States and around the globe. And so when I say family, I'm talking the immediate family, but I'm also talking about the global family as well. There is the Emmett Till generation, and all of those who saw that horrible picture of that beautiful 14-year-old young man who traveled from Chicago on vacation to Mississippi, to the Delta area, to visit relatives. He visited the home of Mose Wright and Elizabeth Wright. Elizabeth Wright is was the aunt, the great aunt, blood relative of Emmett. And so on that summer, as most of us that migrated to the north, we went back home, and home was generally in Mississippi and other places in the South. And Emmett did that as well. And he unfortunately had an encounter that cost him his life. He went to a grocery store there, Bryant's grocery store, and upon exiting the store, he actually whistled at the store owner, Carolyn Bryant, and her name now, or that is infamous, is Carolyn Bryant Donham. And 3 days later, Emmett was actually kidnapped at gunpoint and taken some 30 or so miles around in the Delta area. He was beaten, he was lynched, he was shot in the head. And this is a 14-year-old young man, right? Whistling is not a death sentence, but it was for him. And he was thrown into the Tallahatchie River, or at least the Black Bayou, and later he surfaced in the Tallahatchie River. But there was a 75-pound cotton gin fan tied around his neck. And the intent of that was to bury him in that river, to bury the story, bury the tragedy. And that was not the end of it, because Emmett did emerge. He was identified by a ring that he had on his finger. There was an attempt to bury him there, and to bury the story, erase him off the face of the earth. But his mother found out what happened and defied the government's instructions, and that was to bury him, put lie on him, and just make sure that that this story was never told. She defied the authorities and had his body shipped back with a promise that she broke. And that promise was not to open the casket, and the authorities had made that promise too, but she did. She had an open casket funeral. She made sure that the media was brought in. She made sure that the community and those across the world were able to see his mutilated body. And if the listeners and those that are watching haven't seen that picture, it's horrific. 14-year-old beautiful young man who dressed impeccably, who had a lot of pride, was the only child, was laying there, in some instances looking like a monster. And that monster was hate. That monster was white supremacy. That monster was racism. All of those things that people are trying to bury today. Emmett's mother made sure that that was not buried. She made sure that the media, just as yourself, Al, and others, were able to share this story. It was so important that they partnered with her, along with other local politicians, to make sure that Emmett's face, that face of hate, that face of white supremacy was shown. And so it's a representative of even the through line that continues today. And Mamie is my shero. She defied the authorities at that time, and this act of defiance. I shouldn't say defiance, but this act of justice. She wanted justice for her son. And so, it takes me down a path when I talk about this story. And as you can imagine, family that's carried this for 70 years. This is the 70th year anniversary. This happened in 1955. And so we carry it as not necessarily a burden, but a commitment to move forward, just as Mamie did, with exposing, with teaching, with educating others so that this doesn't happen again. But unfortunately, it has happened again in our country. And we are still facing the burial, the erasure of our stories. And what's significant about what happened last or Sunday in DC is that we took it back to a place of power. We took it back to a place where we're talking the capital of the United States. We're talking the media capital as well. And we again opened that casket to the story, but we also opened it for better understanding that our commitment is around making sure that we're turning this tragedy into triumph, and that we recognize the strength, the courage, the resilience of Mamie Till Mobley by continuing to recognize other women who have gone beyond the ordinary and have done some extraordinary things in their lives. Now, of course, we can't recognize everyone. Of course, we miss certain people. People have been nominated. We selected them. We had an opportunity to engage, communities around that. But that's where we are today with the story. And I don't want to leave it just with the tragedy, but I have to move it forward towards, turning our passion and our pain into power, and to move forward so that we're continuing to inspire other women and others to stand up, speak out, open the caskets when they need to, and show that resistance and resilience and the power that we all possess. And it's not just women, it's men too. But because of Women's History Month and because of our commitment to Mamie Till Mobley to continue sharing the story and continue to stand up for others, we need to uplift women in our community who are doing extraordinary things. So, awesome. Sorry, it takes me a while.
No, that's great. That's great. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. You just heard the voice of Deborah Watts. She is the founder of the Emmett Till Legacy Foundation. And joining us here, a person that she and her organization just awarded, Daribu Hill. Daribu Hill attorney is the founder of the Mississippi Workers Center. And Daribu, I would like you to sort of build on what Deborah just talked about. Describe Mississippi then, and describe Mississippi now, and describe the work. And, and I don't want to come off like Mississippi is someplace else, because the issues that we face in Mississippi, we face in northern Minnesota as well. And we face them in New York, in Connecticut, and in Washington State, and Oregon, and in California, and Arizona. And we face them in the Caribbean and in South America as African people. And we face them if we live in Europe, and actually we still face them at the hands of colonizers on the continent of Africa. But take a minute and go ahead.
Before she,
Sure.
One thing I do want to say, I'm proud of some of the work that we've been able to do in Minnesota and some of these other, states around the country. But I have to tell you, because of, and you just pointed out something very important, that and how our organization has framed it in Minnesota. And I'm proud of the work we've done here, but I call it Mississippi. And I call it Mississippi because we are not that far removed. And so that's why it's so important that Daribu Hill is here. And your question is very, very important, that we don't feel like because we're in the North that we've escaped any of this. The casket is open here too. And so thank you. I just wanted to say Mississippi is all around us.
Yeah. Drew, go ahead, jump in.
Sorry.
Yes, and on that note, Minneapolis, where many descendants of the Deep South of Mississippi reside, along with Chicago and Detroit. And I think even where I grew up, Cleveland, Ohio, those are places where we call them up south, where many of our people had to migrate because of white terror to areas toward the north, and of course found the same terror when they fled from the south to the north. One of the things that's so important about this struggle, and it is an ongoing struggle, and I had someone say to me, because there's so many folks who show up even with high educations, like all of us on this screen, privileged to have gone to college and studied and basically learned a lot of the slave masters' doctrines. And because of that, we're often confused. And a woman in the airport met me in the airport. And of course, I had my Till shirt on. And so she mentioned that she had heard of the Till film, and she herself was a filmmaker, and said, "Oh, I'm not going to watch that porn, that trauma porn," is what she called it. And I had the school girlfriend, I had to let her know, number one, it's not trauma porn. It is our history. It is the legacy of terror that our people have endured. And if no one tells these stories, it's just going to be repeated over and over again. And so I had to chastise her, even though we started out in a friendly conversation. I had to chastise her because many people are confused about why these stories must be told and why we need an Emmett Till Legacy Foundation. I was brought into this particular layer of the struggle as a lawyer because I study to show myself approved. I have a pretty good reputation of being a pretty brave lawyer. And so I was invited into this struggle, into the family. And of course, it was my great honor, as Deborah said, to represent Simeon, but also then to represent Terry and Deborah, who courageously put their names on a petition. And I don't know if people understand what that means, even in the 21st century, to put your name on a petition that actually goes against the highest level of authority in the state, the district attorney and the sheriff. Those are the two areas in terms of states' rights, in terms of terror, that our people have always shunned and shuddered away from. But here are these two women. They became my clients. They became the petitioners on what we call a petition for a writ of mandamus, trying to get the one culprit, the main culprit, Carolyn Bryant, who, as we say in the law, but for her, it never would have happened. Emmett never would have been lynched. And the thing about the Legacy Foundation, the reason why it must continue, and reason why everyone under the sound of my voice needs to support the work, is because what it does, it shines a light on so many of these modern day Emmett Till, Four Little Girl, Sandra Bland type terror murders, race murders. It shines a light on modern day lynchings. It also talks about the unresolved issues that we face, and people want to call it reparations. People want to say we need to be repaired, we need to be made whole. Yes, we do, but it is unresolved for me that that woman got a chance to live out her 88 years. And Emmett Till only got to live until he was 14 years old. And Mamie Till Mobley went to her grave, never getting justice for her baby boy. So there are plans underway, of course, under the leadership of the Legacy Foundation. We would not move without our family partners telling us the direction they want to go in. But we believe that it is time to do post-judicial work around the Till case in the form of tribunals. We did that with Mumia's case. We did that with after Katrina. We had tribunals to expose. I was even in Tokyo, where they exposed the Women in War Crimes Tribunal, exposed the soldiers who raped little children in World War II. So the fact is, it's not over. And even if it's posthumous, we want to see Carolyn Bryant's name come out of this haze of white female gentility and into the zone of criminality where she belongs. And we're not going to stop until we get that. We know that cowards ran away from that. They did not take responsibility. They let her die. They sheltered and shaded her. And what Deborah and Terry and Tia and all the others that are connected to the Legacy Foundation, what they've done is they've been insistent and brazen. And that's what you have to be. You really have to be bold. You have to be brazen. And that's what they've been, insisting from Minnesota to the Delta. Wherever we are as Black people, we are under the gun. And wherever we are, it's ground zero. It's ground zero for Black lives being repressed and murdered. It's ground zero for exposés that have to happen. So I just want to say and shout out, as I have been doing since I rode high after the award ceremony, Deborah. And by the way, you look stunning in gold. That is one of your colors, actually, because the gold is actually so you look stunning in gold. And I just really am so glad that I met Coach Leah and that she roped me into this process. I said yes right away because I always want to be on tap. I want to always be available to make a stand where people are being with coward. I understand them, and I try to help them as best I can. But when someone's brave, I just get excited, and I want to be a part of that type of courage that Mamie Till Mobley ushered in for us, and really, as Deborah said, forced us to look. And we're still looking because of her. We're still exposing the wrongs that are happening to our people because of her. And there is no organization like the Legacy Foundation, the Emmett Till Legacy Foundation. And the reason why it is so crucial and important is that it continues to embrace other family members who have suffered similar fates, who have lost their loved ones in the same horrific type way. Maybe not a lynching by the rope or a lynching by the gun, but certainly ambushes in the night, deaths in custody. All of those are lynchings. They're different forms of lynchings, but they are race deaths. And shout out to Deborah and her family. May you continue, and all of the folks that you brought. I was so glad to see Annie Wright, Simeon's widow. I was just excited to be in the presence of Rena Evers, the baby girl of Medgar and Merle Evers. Just really, for me, it was the highlight, and to have my family with me. And it just was really an amazing evening. And I certainly don't want it to end. And of course, I don't have to be an awardee to come back and sit in one of those seats at the table next year and throw my little coins around to help make things work. So may you continue, really, may you continue.
Thank you. Thank you so
Hopefully
much.
you get a comment or a question.
Yeah, so I just wanted to jump in. I wanted to say how impressed I was, and I don't know if impressed was even the right word, impacted. I don't take what I do lightly. And again, I was just so honored to be have my journalist hat on, because I love writing. I love learning, lifelong learner, and to learn about the families affected by police violence and how connected they are to the Emmett Till Legacy Foundation, and just how that impacted me. I mean, I had a chance to talk with those family members. And first of all, I want to say, clearly, I am interested in more than just sports. Let's just start there. Social justice has been something that's been so important to me forever, since I, met you, Al, years ago, when you allowed me to be a part of Insight News. And, I also want to mention that Black newspapers, Black media is so very important right now, more than ever. Because we've got to get these stories told. We've got to stay in the press. We've got to stay in people's spaces. Like you said, Deborah, keep the casket open. We've got to open it up. We've got to all these things. But so you're hopefully going to be seeing a lot of these stories. The families have wrote me on a project that they have. Uncle Bobby, they've told me that they want me to, help lead the charge from a journalistic standpoint, because they meaning the families of family members affected by police violence, have been on tons of media platforms. Yet their full story is yet still to be told in the voice that they needed told. So I vowed to them that I would do my due diligence, and I did speak for you, my editor in chief, Al, to to say that we would be able to, we will be able to be that voice. But I figured
Right.
that, again, you being my mentor and somebody who has shown me the proper way to do this thing years ago, that that this can be, a home base for that story, the true stories to be told.
Let me expand. That's how we roll, and obviously, we're making we're all committed to the work, and the work directs us, in our every step, and we simply make every step grateful for the opportunity to walk this way. And saying that, I want to bring in my friend Demitri McGee, and I wanted Sister Hill, Attorney Hill, you to get a chance to talk about the Mississippi Workers um, Project. It's the right name for it here, but and I think there's some synergy here. So hang with me for a second, Brother Demitri McGee. You are leading the Build Wealth youth program, and one of the programs is called the Youth Stabilization Program. And what I wanted you to do is, number one, first of all, any reflections, comments on the conversation we've had so far, and then talk about the work you're doing with youth and about building wealth here in Minnesota. And I think that this bigger conversation gives context to the urgency of enabling and empowering our people to move towards self-reliance, self-sufficiency, and creation of wealth in a proper way. So, brother, first of all, welcome back. Good to see you again, and thank you for being here. Impressions first about the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. And I'll start with just saying thank you for all three of you and what you shared as of now. I've heard of the foundation, but hearing you both speak about it gives me a lot more insight on what's actually going on. You being a family member, Miss Deborah, is amazing as well. And just hearing the story, I had the pleasure of going to a HBCU, Clark Atlanta University, where they kind of told us, something about it. And being from Minnesota, they definitely, school's not going to tell us about anything that you all just shared. So really, I just, want to figure out a way where we can get those stories told, not what the news said or what so-and-so said, but actually directly from, not the source, but you are the source at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I just appreciate the stories you all told and the work that you're doing. And I would love to figure out a way to connect with you both and see, just connect with you both and see what we can do from there. How we can contribute to the foundation potentially and get awareness out more than anything.
So Demitri, let's do it this way. You haven't met Derubu Hill or Deborah Watts personally. Let's take this opportunity to explain to them and the thousands of listeners what is Build Wealth Minnesota, and then segue into the particular part of the initiative that you are leading, the Youth Stabilization Program.
Thank you. So yeah, Build Wealth Minnesota. We are a nonprofit, HUD certified, CDFI, and nonprofit organization. We pride ourselves on really being a one-stop shop for finances. We do everything from financial literacy, or the newer term, financial capability training. We also do financial and housing education, financial and housing counseling. We manage multiple down payment assistance programs. We have a renters readiness program that I direct as well. We have employment services and, of course, youth services. Again, with the core being financial literacy and creating ways to build wealth within the Black community. So that's kind of our core. One of our recent initiatives was the 9,000, is the 9,000 Equities Initiatives, which is directed to specifically target Black homeownership. Here in Minnesota, we have, if not the biggest, is for sure one of the biggest gaps in wealth and education, and the list kind of goes on. So build wealth, we're trying our best to kind of bridge that gap. Like we said, the biggest way to create wealth and generational wealth is through ownership, through owning land, through owning businesses, assets, things of that nature. So that is what Build Wealth sets out to do. Segueing into the youth program, I feel one of the only ways to really make this thing generational is to start with the youth. I myself, being blessed to have a father like David McGee and mother Regina McGee, who were financially literate, I would say, worked wonders for me so that I can, in my opinion, not start below the line, but they provided me with the platform where I can progress and build off of what they created. So me being the youth program director, my father tasked me with creating a program for youth, because he is our founder and our executive director. And he's like, man, we need to get youth involved. We can't say that we're creating generational wealth and we leaving the youth out. Of course, they indirectly get, with your parents being a homeowner, you see that. But he's like, we need to hit them before they're adults. So my biggest task with Build Wealth was to really create some culturally relevant products and services that our youth can identify with. Our youth, we go through different stuff. So finding a way to take these traditionally used products, financial products that are universal, there's no way around it, and finding a way to explain, describe, and help our Black youth to use these products in a way that are beneficial. We don't have the best relationship with banks or with landlords or with institutions in general. So again, finding a way to explain and get them comfortable with some of these things and how to kind of play the game. Like there's no way around banking or investing or things of that nature. So I figure if we can at least equip them with the knowledge and then add some mentorship to kind of hold their hand just a little bit, by the time they are adults, they're not learning this stuff. They already learned it. So now it's just about you applying the information and knowing what your options are, so to speak. With the program, we center around really three things. One, of course, is financial literacy and capability. Another is career preparation. And then the last one, but not least, is college preparedness. So for me, as a college educated man with a doctorate and master's and all that good stuff, I acknowledge that that's not always everyone's route. So instead of me beating them in the head and say, go to college, go to college, go to college, take a step back and let's identify careers first. What do you actually want to do? What do you value? What are things that you hold near and dear? And we take that and run with it. So we find out that you just want to be a mechanic and not just working on cars.
Your gift is knowledge.
That's your gift.
Yeah.
Let's figure out how we can get you to that gift. You may not need college. You might just need a certification. You might need an apprenticeship. So how do we help you save time by not going to school, college for 4 or 5 years, where you can just really go get certified in these certain things, and you just saved yourself $50, $60, $80,000 by going straight to the source. And I know a lot of kids that, man, do hair, do nails, do all these things, sell products where you could go to college. That'd be great. I don't think it'll ever hurt. So I'm an advocate for college. So I'll just say it. So I always will throw it in there as an option. But if that's not an option, I'm very transparent. I'm very, I would say, vulnerable when it comes to that and my experiences with college. But if I'm in debt right now, and it's good debt, and I'm utilizing my education for the betterment. But if you don't have to be 80K in debt, let's not do that. Let's let's go straight to the source. So that is I know I go on tangents, Al, but that's the core of our programming and what we try to do with our youth program.
Well, you got a scholarship. Talk about that.
All right. See,
generational scholarship. And then I want to bring in attorney, because I wanted you to connect with Attorney Hill, what you're doing with the Workers Center in Mississippi.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you so much.
But before you do it, I want Demitri to talk about the scholarship first of all.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Go ahead, Demitri.
So going back to college. So a lot of the students that we work with do see college as a means to get to the career they need. So one thing I worked with some retired teachers from the Robbinsdale School District, as well as some other associates of mine. There was a woman that was already doing scholarships, and she's just the love of her students. So one of our past employees introduced me to this woman named, I don't know if she wants me to give her name. We'll say Miss Smith, just in case she don't want her name out there. But she had already been giving away scholarship donations out of her own pocket. Mm-hmm. So what I did is just I got with her and just kind of heard, her story and why she even does it. And for me, we had an org, so I gave it a platform so that we can grow what she was already doing. So we work together. We call it Raise the Bar to Generational Wealth Scholarship. So what we do with it is we add the financial literacy piece. So we work with students all over the city. I think in 2024, we work with nearly 1,000 students. So within that space, we offer all of the seniors the opportunity to apply for a scholarship. With our scholarships, we do it kind of like a no strings attached type deal. As a college person, and it sounds like we got a couple college folks on here. We acknowledge that sometimes when you go for scholarships and grants, they don't come on time. Sometimes it's the middle of the semester, and we know there's other life changing things that are happening. So we try to we've in the past been able to get the scholarships to the students earlier so that they can use it for things like paying for your dorm. I can't tell you how many folks got kicked out of the dorms at Clark that first week just for not having that gap of funds that their Pell Grants was supposed to do. So we are providing them with funds that could help pay for books, help pay for any gaps, things of that nature, and kind of no strings attached. So we're not gonna send it to school. We send it directly to you. We do a whole little ceremony to celebrate them, their accomplishments. Some of the requirements are, you had to have participated in some of our YSP programming. So that's the acronym, Youth Stabilization Program, YSP. So that we know that somewhat how to manage finances, you have a relationship with us, you've had mentorship, you have access to these things, so that as an organization, as we give you this no strings attached scholarship, we know that how to manage funds. We know that you're accepted to a college, which is another requirement. So we got to see proof. And then you get the scholarship. Typically they've been $1,000 to $2,000. So nothing too crazy, but for someone that's low income, or first generation, that might be the difference between you having books for the semester. And then we expand it, so not just college, but any post-secondary programs that gather certifications and things of that nature. So if you're going to nursing school, then that could pay for your scrubs. It could pay for some additional costs. So just meeting them where they're at. This year, we're looking to give 5 to 10 scholarships. We're still taking donors. So if anyone knows anyone that is got some deep pockets or interested in giving back to youth, we encourage you to do so. The more we can raise, the more we can give out, so to speak. But I already, on my end as a director of the program, I have a set amount. So we're going to do it no matter what's going on.
Right.
The more donations we get, the more scholarships we can give out, or the more amount within each scholarship.
Let me bring Jaribu Hill back in. Attorney Hill, again, take a minute to describe your work at the Mississippi Workers Center.
Thank you so much again for the opportunity, and it's wonderful to hear from Demitri and the program that you are doing. It's so inspiring to see any program that focuses on our young people, and many of them don't know that in their DNA is the fight for freedom. All of the organizations, every group, from SNCC to the Black Consciousness Movement in South Africa, they were all actually started by young people. Many of them were teenagers. In fact, some of the early casualties were teenagers, like Hector Peterson in Soweto. So for you to be focusing on young people is exactly where the focus needs to be. And to that end, for 25 years, we have had a program named after Fannie Lou Hamer, now called the Fannie Lou Hamer Emerging Leaders Program. And that program in part does focus on young people, and we recognize that all young people are not students. We recognize, as you said, Demitri, and thank you for that clarification, that all young people don't want to go to college, or we're not destined to go to college. They have other things in mind. Maybe somebody wants to be a diesel mechanic who's going to make about 3 times what I make as a poverty lawyer. So there are many, many tracks that our young people are on, but they're often not encouraged because of class biases, because of racism, and because of our own short-sightedness as far as what we know that young people are capable of. So thank you for that. And our program has gone over into the 25th year. We're now in our 26th year. And for the Mississippi Workers Center, we were founded December 30th, 1996. So next year, we will be 30 years old. And we started out in Oxford, Mississippi, but 3 years later, we moved in 1999. We moved to the Mississippi Delta. I am a product of the Mississippi Delta, not by birth, but by parentage and grandparentage. My dad was from Deason, Mississippi, although he was born in Shelby because there was a hospital there. He was raised in Deason, Mississippi, in Bolivar County. And all of my mother's people are from Shaw, Mississippi, approximately 30 or 40 minutes from where I live in Greenville. So the connection between my life as a wannabe, and I say a wannabe freedom fighter because I think we're striving all the time to try to at least stand next to those great giants like Ida B. Wells and Fannie Lou Hamer and Mamie Till Mobley, that we are students of those struggles. And so our organization focuses on 3 areas: education advocacy, we focus on litigation, and organizing. Now, some would say, organizing, are you a union? No, we are not. We are a worker center, and we are the very first English-speaking worker center in the country. And so we do that. We stand in the gap because in our state, only 4.2% of the population is fortunate enough to be part of unions. And we are not anti-union. We support a worker's human right to organize, but we know that the Deep South is last on the list of priorities for many areas. And so labor has not been so good to the Deep South. We don't have a lot of unions. We want them. We want workers to be able to join them and to be able to have more protection on the job. And so we stand in, not as a replacement for unions, certainly not as a feeder for unions, but we stand in as an organization that models itself after organizations in Central America and organizations in Africa, where our people are living and still languishing under colonization and certainly under the brutal system of capitalism. So we do educate around dismantling those systems. We educate around changing the culture of work, creating conditions that are more humane, creating conditions
You got less than a minute. Go ahead,
that's
Sister
what,
Hill.
yes. But don't get me started. So anyway, but I just invite you to look at our website. We are online, and we do have a website that describes our work. It's msworkersrights.org. please go to that website. And if you don't remember it, you can get me certainly through Deborah Watts and Coach Leah. If you want to get in touch with us, we would love to know more about what you're doing, Demitri, and to find ways to support you. And of course, Deborah, we always will do whatever we can do to lift you up and the organization to make sure that it survives.
And Deborah, 20 seconds.
Likewise.
Yes. Please follow us also, Emmett Till Legacy Foundation. And we're getting ready for the 70th year anniversary, where we're going to be going back where it all started to Mississippi on our Till Trail of Tears and Terror educational tour. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, X. We'd love to have you join us for the 70th year anniversary.
We got to drop it right there. I think that's
Okay,
it. Coach Leah, thank you so much. Demitri, thank you
so much.
You know what? I want to remind people before I close that tomorrow we begin the spring membership drive. So from the 9th through the 18th, it's KFAI's membership drive. Next week's show is going to be a membership drive episode. Join us next week. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.
Al. Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Bye. So good to see you guys.